Hey everyone, Simon here with a new insight and new video on Gulika, the elusive shadow of Saturn, and its effects, particularly its effects by transit. Now, I fell upon this by accident. I found first encountered Gulika in working with game charts, predicting the outcome of events. And I found that when Gulika was, say, conjunct the ruler of the ascendant, that it would bring down the power of the favorite team. When it's conjunct the ruler of the seventh house, it would bring down the power of the underdog. When it was conjunct the say the cusp, the first house cusp within 2 degrees, same thing for the favorite, and so on. So that was my first experience. And to be honest with you, um, I just use the formula for Gulika that's in Parashara's light. So that's a lot of you know that's the software I use. So when you go to options, calculation options, it does give you a couple of options, the Gulika method, and I use the ending of portion. Um, Honestly, I haven't. This is where it shows you how lazy I am. I haven't really played around with it. This is the default, I believe, and that's what I use, and it seems to produce good results. Now, those of you who are interested in doing research, you can try. There are different methods for the calculation of Gulika. I believe the most authoritative comes, in fact, Dr. K.S. Chuddak. A big shout out to him and his wonderful book, The Essentials of Medical Astrology. I think in that he gives the quote unquote correct or one of the accepted calculations for Gulika from Brihat Parashara Hora. And honestly, this is an area where I just defer to the people who know more than I do. I've not experimented with all the different ways. I just use what's in my software. Now, for a lot of things, I'm not like this. I do things by hand. Bija Sputa, Kshetra Sputa, Yogi points, part of fortunes. I'll calculate them manually. But this thing, for some reason, I just hands off. So if you have more insights or if you think there's another calculation for Gulika that's more accurate, please, by all means, use what works for you. Okay, um, so in this video, I'm going to talk about two things. One is three things actually. One is um, if how to know when Gulika is affecting you in your natal chart. Two is how to know when it's affecting you by transit. And three, what the hell to do about it. And that's probably the most important part. And unfortunately, that's the part that still a lot of research is needed. But let's get to the first and most obvious point, which is what if you have Gulika natally on your chart? Now, I have a number of clients who have Gulika in compromising positions. Obviously, I cannot use their charts, but I can approximate. This is the chart for the moment. And I can build, let's see. So imagine a chart like this. And let me move this out of the way so you can see in the South Indian where the ascendant is conjunct Gulika. Okay. Now, Gulika, I term as the shadow of Saturn. And when you have Gulika prominent, like what does prominent mean? When it's conjunct either your ascendant or your moon, primarily, and secondarily, when it's conjunct another major planet like the sun in your chart or the ruler of the ascendant, okay? And the texts talk about, if you have it conjunct Rahu, you'll have infectious diseases. If you have it conjunct Ketu, you'll have danger by fire and accidents and, burns. And if you have it conjunct your sun, you will have trouble from your father. Conjunct moon, trouble from your mother. What does trouble mean? Well, it's a general term that says unhappiness. There's going to be issues. We'll talk about what those issues are in a second. If it's conjunct Mars, you will have trouble from younger siblings. If it's conjunct Saturn, from servants and so on. If it's conjunct Jupiter, it makes you an atheist or an iconoclast, someone who doesn't believe. Um, so it's generally a negative influence, generally. There are some few cases where it can create a Raja Yoga, but we're not going to look at those for the moment. What we are going to look at is when it is conjunct. Now, What does conjunct mean? If your sun is at 29 degrees and Gulika is at 2 degrees in a sign, that's not conjunct. Okay, that's not good enough. For me, typically, I look at 2.5 degrees. Okay, that's a real conjunction because if we're going to be scared of all these malefic points and there's just too much, we have Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Mercury when he's with malefics, waning moon, yada, yada. So there's too many malefic points. For them to be truly noteworthy, they have to be close. So I use 2.5. Now you can use 3, you can use 5 degrees. That would be my outside max is 5 degrees. So let's take a case like this. I've had a couple of clients with a similar, few clients with a similar kind of disposition where Gulika was on the ascendant. And what this creates is like a thin film over your glasses. It's this annoying kind of, you can still kind of see through it, but it creates a fog. It creates a rain cloud under which the person walks all their lives. There's people dislike them for no reason. They get weird reactions. They try hard to achieve, but they can't. They apply for a good job and they don't get it, or when they get it, people are jealous of them. There's this constant baggage that you carry when you have Gulika very tight on a sensitive point. If it's your lagna, it can create depression, physical depression. And what I recommended for this person was tanning because she lived in a place where there wasn't much exposure to sunlight. Because the antidote to Gulika, the antidote to any shadow is light. And in Barihat Parashrahora, it says you should light a lamp to and take it to a temple, a Shiva temple. And so having light is very important, and fire. You can do Agnihotra, a fire ritual. You can do exposure to the sun. And in her case, there were other indications of low vitamin D in her chart. And so I recommended that. And in fact, I asked her, I didn't even ask. I said, you have very low vitamin D levels. And I think she agreed with that and she smiled and said, yeah, how did you know? And Gulika's placement was part of it. And so supplementing with vitamin D if you can't get the sun. In her case, I recommended tanning booth, which I rarely recommend. But if you do go that route, go with beds that have UVB light, and certainly take care of your skin and don't overexpose. You just want 5 minutes. You just want enough to get that exposure. Anyway, the point is light is the antidote. So when Gulika is on the ascendant, it will create physical symptoms of depression that can be cured physically. It can create hormonal problems. It can create thyroid problems. Particularly, the third house is also afflicted because the third house is considered the thyroid in my system, the way I look at the chart. You can also consider the second house because it's the neck. Um, so the lagna, the ascendant, represents the physical body, and so you would treat the problem of Gulika physically by introducing more light, more heat, cayenne, even cayenne pepper and ginger into the diet. Even having an Ayurvedic diet that kindles Agni, that kindles your digestive power. Adding probiotics. Primal Defense is a product that I really like. But lots of ginger, lots of things that light up, heat up the body, and can burn away that film physically. Now, what if Gulika is on your moon? On your moon, you will experience a shadow on your mind and your heart because the manas in the Vedic tradition lives here. It's in the heart. It's not here. Okay. The buddhi is here. The manas is here. So you will go through bouts of mania. You may go through bouts of depression. You may go through bouts of exaggerated emotions. Okay. And you shouldn't have any sharp knives around you during those times. Or if you do, you should, isolate yourself. Um, that's a joke. But the idea is that you want, first of all, you want to know that this is something that is not you. This is a shadow that has been cast on you. And if you have Gulika natally in your natal chart close to your moon, um, You want to bring light into your life. In this case, it's not physical, it is emotional. So, what are some things? Go see it, go watch romantic comedies or watch funny movies. That's light in the sense of ha ha ha, light. But also, and perhaps more important, probably more important, is um, spiritual light. And so, again, having a home where you have candles, where you have a Himalayan salt lamp, where you have incense, and um, even rituals where you use fire in fire worship. In another sense, having light is having people who love you close and around you. This is very, very important because they can reflect back to you what is real and what's not real. Because when Gulika is on your moon, you tend to not see things clearly because you're blinded by your emotions. The expression rose colored glasses, well, it's also charcoal colored glasses. And with Gulika there, you tend to have charcoal colored glasses that help, and you know it. You can sense it when this is happening. It's like it, but it's just so stuck on you. And someone said that, you know, when you see this in a chart, you realize how much we are pawns in the game of the stars. And I retorted that yes, but the pawn can become the queen in chess. The pawn can become promoted when it goes all the way and reaches its goal, which is its dharma. The full dharma of the pawn is to take 8 steps and become a queen. That's the ninth step. And the queen is the most powerful piece. And so, even though we are pawns through awareness and through following our dharma, despite the the way the board is set up against us and for us, we can still promote our being into becoming the most powerful force on the chessboard. So keep that in mind and keep in mind that whatever the combinations in your chart, it's not where you start, it's what you do with them. Okay? It's what you do with them that makes life noble. In The Princess Bride, there's the movie, great movie, one of the top 10 movies of all time, in my opinion. There's a famous duel, and the two are sword fighting, and one guy is losing the fight, but he's smiling. And his opponent says, "Why are you smiling?" He says, "I know something you don't know." He says, "And that is?" And then he's been fighting left handed. He switches his sword and he says, "I am not left handed." And then, haha, and now he starts winning. And then, he starts really pressing back his opponent. And then his opponent's like, "Well, I got to share something with you." He's like, "What's that?" "I am also not left handed." He switches and they start fighting. So the point is, it's how well you fight when you're handicapped. There's nobility, there's a glory in that fight. When you fight with one arm behind your back or with malefics afflicting you or Lugna, your moon, the point is not, there's no winning this game. It's how well you play it with the handicaps that you're given. And folks, the malefics have to go somewhere. Saturn has to be somewhere, Ketu has to be somewhere, Gulika has to be somewhere. And if you're fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to put it, enough to have them very tight, understand that this is part of your game. And you are the pawn that has to reach the end and become a queen. And in doing so, you will make the most of your handicap. And we all start with a personal handicap. So now, having said that from the point of view of the birth chart, let's take a look at what to look for by transit. So again, I said I'm a very simple person. I use the formula that Parashara's light gives me. And on any given day, you can go, and so let's say today's July 25th. I'm going to go a couple days ahead. Let's see, here's July 27th. By the way, Gulika seems to be there for a half a day. It's in any given position for a half a day. And so whatever influence it's having, it's only temporary if it's by transit. So here's July 27th, and Gulika is at 1 degree Leo. Now, let's say I have my moon there. Okay. Uh-oh. This is something you can actually project forward, and you can look, on this day, Gulika is going to be on my moon. So I may not be seeing things clearly, I may be a little emotional. So if there's a job interview, if you have a date planned for that day, if you have whatever it is, just okay, you don't have to cancel them, but keep your awareness. Yeah, you should probably cancel them. But if you can't cancel them, just stay aware and try to not overreact. Or let's say this is my ascendant. My ascendant is 1 degrees Leo. Or like I said, there's a 2 to 3 degree orb. Okay, so let's say my ascendant's 3 degrees Leo, or 3.5 degrees, or 4 degrees. I would still be concerned with this. If it's 8 degrees, I'm not worried. Okay, so again, use your own good judgment, but I think about 2.5 to 3 degrees orb is plenty. Uh, and then you can project forward. Look, July 28th. So it's going to be in two positions, every in a position every 12 hours, roughly speaking. So look, it's going to hit everybody at some point. So moving forward, well, look at that. It's going to be a 21-degree Scorpio on July 29th at 11 in the morning, yada, yada. So that's how you do it by transit. And you see, you can watch how the shadow passes. And it literally is like a storm. You know, when a storm comes, everything gets dark for a minute, windy, uncomfortable, and then it passes and it's like nothing was there. So the idea is weather the storm and, you know, learn to just observe and not react during that period. All right. So that's the second lesson. The first lesson is if you have this in your chart, learn how to recognize it. The second is if you see this by transit, learn how to recognize it. And by transit, you just simply have to cast. What I like to do is every morning just kind of cast a chart for the day, or the other direction. If something is happening in my life that's positive or negative, I like to go, I wonder what's going on. And I pull the chart and then I see. In any case, if you find Gulika transiting, keep in mind it's temporary, but it's very real. Its effects are definitely real. Okay. So let's get to the third step. The third step is what do you do about it? And I've already alluded to a couple of things. I talked about getting vitamin D. So if it affects you on the annamaya kosha, on the physical level, then you want to treat it on the physical level. You want to treat it with physical things by adding light and heat to your body. If it's on the manomaya kosha, the mental, emotional level, you want to treat it with having good company, with keeping things light, and crying. You know, letting your emotions out, channeling your emotions, and not withdrawing into the cave, the darkness that Gulika wants you to withdraw into. You know, share your feelings with someone you love. If it's on the pranamaya kosha can be on the level. Prana is your life breath. So this could be with Gulika on your lagna, Gulika on your sun, Gulika on your lagna lord, more precisely, will affect your pranamaya kosha. And this is where you may want to use essential oils, homeopathic remedies, things that are subtle and that work on the prana level. This for the manomaya kosha. Actually, homeopathics work great on every level because they're so subtle. So if you know a good homeopathic doctor or you are one, on the days that Gulika is testing you, go for it. If you have Gulika natally on your chart, you can find a formula that is good for Gulika. Um, in homeopathy, finding your root, your core formula is one of the biggest things a doctor can do for you. And it takes hours, it takes many, often days and weeks of experimentation. But once you find it, that's the formula that keeps you balanced. So anyway, on the pranamaya kosha level, at the level of your life breath, your chi, you can do essential oils, homeopathy, exercise. Exercise makes you breathe. So yoga, tai chi, and so on is good. If you have Gulika on your Lagna Lord. But remember, it can also affect you physically, so don't overdo exercise. Keep it spiritual. All right. So these are some tips. Again, lighting candles, worship. It says in the text that you want to worship the sun in the morning which means getting up at sunrise and exposing your body to the sun's rays that clears any dark energy and film, and worshiping Vishnu in the evening at sunset. So Vishnu Sahasranama, I'll be making some videos on that mantra, and um, and then worshiping Shiva in the evening at night, and lighting a candle to Shiva. So those are the recommended measures in the books. All right, folks, I hope this was useful to you, and we shall see you in the next video. Namaste.